develop nuclear weapons, but first of all, you need to withdraw from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation
Well,
Treaty. This
the
is my
Quran certainly talks
Iran.
about readying your steeds of war. That's a verse that I'm familiar with. So readying the steeds of war at the same level as your opposition seems to be a no-brainer. I kind of have to agree with you. But the Israelis have at least 90 and some say 400 nuclear weapons, most of them probably aimed at the Islamic Republic of Iran. So that's probably another good incentive to say, yes, nuclear weapons are a necessity. But coming back to that sort of leadership in Tel Aviv and their intentions, do you really think that they are ready to unleash nuclear Armageddon? Are they of the mindset and the psychology, having seen what we've seen in Gaza, that they would be ready to do that? Because the fallout from nuclear weapons, the fallout from perhaps the Straits of Hormuz being shut down, the fallout from Iran bombing all of the, say, US installations across West Asia, an economic meltdown perhaps because of the Hormuz and the Bab al-Mandeb being shut down. Is that something that Israel is unconcerned about, that they would go ahead with this kind of nuclear Armageddon?
Let me remind you, Syed Mohsin, that I am not primarily a political scientist. I am primarily someone who is teaching the Quran, and that is what is causing problems. My people do not want me to use the Quran to explain the world today. Imran, stop what you're doing. They will always try to find a way to turn away from the Quran and make it a political discourse. Whether Israel has 400 nuclear weapons or not is not relevant really to me. I am concerned with the Quran, and this is what they don't want me to do.
Sure.
The Quran says, وَأَعِدُّوا لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ. Build power to the extent that you can possibly build it. This is Surah Al-Anfal. And the purpose for which power is to be built is تُرْهِبُونَ بِهِ عَدُوَّ اللَّهِ وَعَدُوَّكُمْ, that your power will function as a deterrent, And therefore, I have a problem with that fatwa. But that is what Iran does not want me to talk about. I wait for the day when Iran would recognize that they need to build power to the extent that it will deter Israel. Israel is not bothered. Israel will keep on attacking Iran. Israel does not attack Pakistan. Why? Pakistan is a nuclear power. How come they don't attack Pakistan? Why? Because it's not the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. It is the American Republic of Pakistan. The whole world knows that except the Chief of Staff of the Pakistan Armed Forces. So Iran is not the American Republic of Iran. Iran is sincerely resisting Israel. And that is why they are attacking Iran. And they will continue to attack Iran. Whether or not they will have to bring down the whole world economy, that an attack on Iran could result in the destruction of all the oil installations in the Gulf. An attack on Iran could eventually cause the Straits of Hormuz to be blocked. If that happens, the world economy can collapse. Israel doesn't care, but Iran does care. Iran is acting cautiously, not recklessly. This is why I have so much admiration for Ayatollah Khamenei, that he acts with wisdom and he acts in a manner which is cautious rather than reckless. So I don't think that Iran would so easily block the Straits of Hormuz. I don't think Iran will so easily launch missile attacks on all the oil installations in the Gulf and send them up in smoke. I believe that Iran will act very cautiously, but Iran has to do something to stop Israel attacking Iran constantly. And Trump will also join in the attack on Iran. It's coming again. Look, just wait and you'll see it's coming again.
Well, coming back to your actual area of expertise, as you've hinted several times, I keep taking it to the political, geopolitical, and thank you for answering that question pretty thoroughly. I think that there's this question of eschatology. We understand from your initial introduction that the Jewish fraternity, or certainly this Jewish fraternity, whether it's in the Talmud or the Torah, I'm not sure, they have an eschatological commitment towards creating this end time games where they rule, like, essentially the world from Jerusalem, I guess, or from Tel Aviv. But Islam also has an eschatology, and you've hinted at it several times, and I've not gone into that. But the Dajjal, the rising of the sun in the West, you equate it to perhaps Western civilization and imperialism, etc. From what I gather as well. This is all very fascinating. That the Quranic indications and the Hadith, in terms of their relevance to what's happening now. Do you think we're living in the period now where that Quranic and that Hadith corpus, which talks about the end of times, which talks about Dajjal and the various things that will happen in order for the emergence of Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, Imam Mahdi Akhir Zaman, according to the Ahl Tashayyu, and also according to the Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Do you think we're in that period now? And what are the signs that you're seeing that might indicate to you that we are?
Our Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, has given a timeline of events in the end time, as no political scientist has ever been able to do. These were his words. I'm not quoting the Arabic text, so they're giving an English explanation. When Jerusalem is center stage in the world, and Medina is in forlorn desolation, then the next event that the world can expect in that timeline of events is the Great War. Christian eschatology and Jewish eschatology call it Armageddon. And our prophet referred to the same Armageddon as Malhama, the Great War. And today we see Jerusalem at center stage. You have to be blind not to recognize that. And Medina in forlorn desolation, playing absolutely no role whatsoever in the affairs of the world. And so now we are expecting the Great War. And I am of the opinion, of course, I hope I'm wrong. I'm of the opinion that the Western world, which has been acting in proxy in fighting Russia in Ukraine, it's actually a war between the West and Russia, not between West and Ukraine. Ukraine is the guinea pig. That war is now winding down. And it is becoming plain and clear that the West is losing the war. I don't think that the war is going to continue until Ukraine has to surrender, and Russia is triumphant in that war and accepts the defeat and surrender of Ukraine. I don't think that's going to happen, but we don't have long again before Ukraine will not be able to fight anymore. I am of the opinion that they will not allow that to happen, that they prefer a nuclear war to save face rather than to face defeat in Ukraine. So we may not have more than a year or two, perhaps, left before something will be done to provoke the Great War. I hope I'm wrong. I'll be happy if I'm wrong, but this is my anticipation. Now, if and when the Great War takes place, our prophet went on to say the next event after that would be the conquest of Constantinople. Why has that name disappeared from our discourse, even in Iran? Not just Nobody uses the term Constantinople anymore. They're scared of using the name Constantinople because it has been made illegal in Turkey. You can't use the name Constantinople. But our prophet used the name Constantinople for the city, and therefore it is a sunnah, and I use the sunnah. I have written a book entitled Constantinople in the Quran. Do you think they will ever respond to my book? The Shia scholars? Do you think the Sunni scholars will ever respond to my book? Here it is, Constantinople in the Quran. The first time in history anyone has written on this subject, Constantinople in the Quran. Why would a Muslim army conquer Constantinople? Answer, this is my opinion. I have the right to express my opinion. I am the only one speaking on the subject. Nobody else is speaking about the subject. So allow me to offer my view. I say that the reason why a Muslim army will conquer Constantinople a few years after the Great War, not long after the Great War, is because we have to correct the wrong committed by the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire waged bogus jihad for 600 years, not only against the Shia, but against the Orthodox Christian world. The Ottoman Empire took the greatest cathedral of the Christian world, Hagia Sophia, and shamefully, disgracefully, and manifestly sinfully converted it to a masjid. And then Erdogan added some salt into the wounds by doing it a second time. So when a Muslim army conquers Constantinople, whether you like it or whether you don't, this is what's going to happen. We're going to return Hagia Sophia to those to whom it rightfully belongs and correct this violation of Allah's law in the Quran. When we return Hagia Sophia to the Orthodox Christian world, that will cement the reconciliation, the friendship and alliance between our people and those who follow Jesus. Number two, after the Great War takes place and the conquest of Constantinople takes place, the Russian Navy will be able to pass through the Bosphorus and enter into the Mediterranean. That's bad news for Israel. Number three, when we conquer Constantinople, the name of the city will be returned to the name of Constantinople because that's the name our prophet used. Number four, when we conquer Constantinople, then all those Christians who were driven out of that land where they lived for thousands of years, driven out by the Ottoman Empire in the Armenian genocide of 1914, I think it was. When we conquer Constantinople, all the Christians, the Greeks, the Armenians, whoever you were, who had been living in that area and who were driven out unjustly, will be allowed to return. When we conquer Constantinople, Muslims and Christians will share the city, and we will teach the world how we can live together in fraternity. The Prophet then went on to say, after the conquest of Constantinople, the next event that will occur would be when Dajjal will appear in person, the Khuruj of Dajjal. And so, Sayyid Muslim, we are indeed living in those times at this time.